something that has been developing, something that shocked many, even as we saw auctioneers actually descend on the Rugby Association. And Sean Cadovillas is actually at the RFUEA grounds to give us more details on the same. The officials definitely came out and said, yes, we were auctioned and the debt looks like 4 million shillings. Is there more that you can tell us?
Gladys, thank you very much, and a very good morning from the RFUEA, where you can see in the background the Kenya National Sevens team is training at the moment, having one of their final training sessions before they go for this crucial Olympic qualifier that's taking place in South Africa. But all this taking place in the background of dramatic scenes yesterday, where auctioneers came to the KRU offices, that's the Kenya Rugby Union offices here at the RFUEA grounds off Ngong Road, and carted away with several items, including computers, anything of value. We're hearing that the debt goes into the region of about 90 million shillings. That's what we're hearing. And the union, of course, claiming that they are owed about 94 million shillings from the government through the sports fund. We're yet to clarify these issues. We are hearing about 94 million is set to be released from the sports fund. A number of federations complaining about this. In fact, the federations are set to meet the Parliamentary Sports Committee regarding this issue, because they're claiming there's a lot of frustration from the Sports Ministry. In particular, there's one man who's in the firing line, the Principal Secretary Karimi Kaberia, who has been in the firing line. I was at the Sports Committee about a week and a half ago, and it was very, very dramatic in terms of how much pressure he was under at Parliament. All right, so at the moment we've got the Sevens team training behind us, but to delve a little bit more into what's been happening and the background is Ayumba Ayodi from the Daily Nation, who's been following the story very carefully. Now, Ayumba, the story that we've got a new committee that's in charge of the Kenya Rugby Union. Gangla is, of course, the chairman. Odua Gangla is the chairman. We're talking about debts going back to 2014, but the fact is he was secretary under the old committee, of course, led by Richard Omwela. So how much is he implicated in this?
I think it's very sad what happened. I mean, for a national federation, facing such a scenario at the time when the Kenya Sevens team players have just returned from, senior players have returned after boycotting last season, after failing to sign contracts for the just ended season. I think, you see, these federations go to elections. As much as we want to blame the government, the federations too need to put in place mechanism, marketing strategies that will enable them get funds. So the government will only come in when the national teams are concerned, where the national teams are concerned. But these debts at the Kenya Rugby Union goes beyond the national team, So as much as we want to blame the government, the federations too should be blamed.
Yeah, because now people would be saying, what's the point of having elections if the government is going to be looking after these federations? We see with football all the problems they're having, saying they don't have money, and of course the Kenya Premier League almost grinding to a halt. People will be saying, what's the point? Why doesn't the government have people in place rather than have federations, and elections? The government must be, have better just run these federations themselves.
Exactly. So, I mean, if the government, the Sports Act says that the government should be involved in where the national teams are involved. That is okay. But what is the role of the government, the federations? Then they rather have the government run the show, everything that is operating, let's say at football, is it volleyball, is it cricket, is it rugby, then we should have let the government take control of everything. But the government, where the government is failing is when the national team is concerned. Look at rugby. Kenya went for the qualifiers, rugby, the World Cup that is going on. They went for the qualifiers last year. They were not given a cent. The union had requested for 130 million, cutting across the women's team, the Chipo team, and the Sevens team, the 15th team. But the only amount KRU got from the government is 3 million that went to Chipu's allowances. Then what about the 15th women's team? What about the 15th men's team? What about the 7th team? It means the government is doing nothing. It's not helping the sports federation to as far as the national teams is concerned.
There's also this theory that football, also Kenya Rugby Union as well, to a certain extent, are not aligned. Of course, they are supposed to be aligned with the Sports Act, that they're not fulfilling all the criteria. That's why the government is withholding this money. What's your theory on that?
Most of these federations, to say the truth, they've not aligned with the current Sports Act. And that is why the government is cagey. And take an example of football Kenya Federation. I mean, FIFA put in like 130 million, yes, for that is the annual grant. So if FKF wants the government to put in more money, the government also must also ask how much is FIFA putting in so that they can supplement that. Because, for example, the starlets that are preparing for the Olympic qualifier, there's some money that FIFA put in. So why should the government also come in? So the government has a right to know how FKF is also spending, so that they know how much they'll put in.
What's the way forward for Gangla at this point? This was a big blow yesterday, and we're hearing from Gangla, he's saying this may not be the last time that the auctioneers will come here. What's the way forward?
I think right now, you see, he was the secretary when Omwela was the chairman. So he's part of the system that was there before. I think what that said, I think he needs to, there's that goodwill. Sponsors are trickling in now. I mean, we saw what happened at Safari Sevens. Last year they had no sponsors. This year they have several sponsors. That is, I mean, they're now starting to gain this trust. So let's not just really call on the government in everything. I mean, they need to. This is rugby. Rugby can draw so much. Some years back, we were drawing so much from the sponsors. So I think let him put his team in place. Well, let him form a good marketing team that will sell rugby across.
All right, thanks very much, Ayumba Yodi from the Daily Nation. As you heard, of course, lots of problems, not only for rugby, but for the federations in general. And really, the message from us to the federations is they need to get their houses in order for them to move forward, and of course, for the government to release more money. And what's happening next is they're going to have the naming of the team, the men's sevens team, for the Olympic qualifiers. And don't forget, after the qualifiers, both the men's and women's team will be involved with the Dubai Sevens, and that's happening on the first week of December. And it's back to you from the RFUEA grounds.
Sean Cadoville is definitely painting how grim the situation is at the Rugby Union. They were auctioned by auctioneers for a 4 million debt. And this is very sad, coming at a time where the Rugby Union and, of course, the RFUEA fraternity has always been backing this very valuable sport. But to get to this point, it really is sad. And Dr. Kaluo, you actually not only love environment, but you're also in the sporting world in a way. And you just said you came from the ongoing Rugby World Cup.
From Japan, yes, in Yokohama, where the World Rugby is being held. And it's when you look at teams globally, when you look at South Africa, when you look at the Blacks and the team that is in New Zealand, and the amount of sponsorship and leadership capabilities that have been portrayed out there, it's a total world of difference when you come to Kenya. It's not enough just to blame the government, because there must be a blame to be taken by leaders at the Rugby Union and other sporting fraternity as well. Because for things to get this bad, there must have been a breakdown of communication, because communication is everything in such. And we must take responsibility at this level. This is what we need. And it's just a sign of so many things that are going wrong, not only in the sporting fraternity. And it is about individuals and leadership taking responsibility. That is what we have to do. Who is the government? The government is you and I. And if we don't do what is expected to be done, how can you blame yourself for not doing what you are not supposed to be doing? And when we're talking about a government that is doing jobs, there are many jobs. You should see in Yokohama right now what is happening in the rugby union. Billions that have been spent. People traveling all over the world to come and see. Those are jobs. And the same can be happening right in our country.
So we are
missing
out.
We're just missing something that we should just learn to take responsibility and do what is right. This is our country, and we are the ones to take lead and do what we must be able to do.